Welcome to Scarlet Tavern. Grab a drink, take a seat, and let's begin. Today we're diving into a story so twisted it makes a pretzel look straight. Grab your magnifying glasses, folks, because we're unraveling the dark, bizarre, and almost unbelievable tale of NXIVM, a self-help group that turned out to be more like a real-life soap opera minus the happy endings. Imagine a world where empowerment seminars come with secret branding ceremonies, where the leader's charm is as potent as a double espresso, and where the line between mentor and manipulator gets blurrier than my vision without coffee. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this cultic onion, one tear-jerking layer at a time. So tighten your shoelaces, adjust your tinfoil hats, prepare for a wild ride into the shadowy corners of NXIVM, to tell of power and control in the human psyche's darkest recesses. This is Scarlet Tavern. All right.
This is one we've been wanting to do for a little bit now.
Yeah, so NXIVM is a lot more modern and involves an actress that I loved growing up. But it gets a little dark. The things that they do in this cult are a little dark, which is why Pam's not with us on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess let's get right into it. This one's not going to be super long because the media has removed a lot of the stuff around NXIVM because of it involving a Hollywood A-lister. So,
yeah, I found when I was
B-lister now, but
is she even on the list?
Oh yeah.
I found that outside of a couple of, which actually sounds like some pretty interesting books by survivors of this cult, there is Wikipedia. Drudge had a half a thing that was mostly aimed at just cults in general. They just happened to mention these guys a little bit more than the others. But yeah, this one's not as much as you would think of that's out there.
Yeah. So, Keith Raniere was born on August 26, 1960 in Brooklyn, New York, as the only child of James Raniere, an advertising executive, and Vera Oshipko. Oshipko.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Oshipko.
I couldn't figure it out.
Russian. Oshipko.
Oshipko from Russia.
Ballroom dancing instructor.
Of course.
When he was 5, his family moved to Suffern, New York. Raniere's parents separated when he was 8 years old, leading to a significant shift in his upbringing. Raniere attended Suffern High School before transferring to Rockland Country Day School, from which he graduated in June 1978. He later claimed that reading Isaac Asimov's Second Foundation at age 12 inspired his work in NXIVM, emphasizing themes of mind control. In 1982, he graduated from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute with a 2.26 GPA, barely passing and failing many classes. He then worked as a computer programmer for the New York State Division of Parole.
Jesus, the guy's an idiot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Of course,
even by New York standards.
Yeah, seriously. And of course, it would be the state parole division
that hires him.
Yeah. That actually fits for New York State government.
Raniere's father once remarked that their encouragement of his intelligence might have contributed to his developing a grandiose self-image. Barbara Boucher, Bobby Boucher, a mama says the alligator ain't happy because he got all those teeth and no toothbrush. Well, mama sounds like a fool. Don't you talk about mama. A former partner recounted how Raniere's father observed a dramatic shift in his behavior, with Raniere beginning to perceive himself as superior and almost divine.
With that GPA,
yeah. Raniere's mother also noticed troubling behavior patterns, particularly his manipulations of young girls, by telling each one that he was uniquely special to him.
I'm sure she's like, that's got his father written all over him.
Yeah. Throughout the 1980s, Raniere was involved with Amway, a multi-level marketing company. In 1990, he founded Consumers Byline Incorporated, CBI, another multi-level marketing business that offered discounts in exchange for recruiting new members. It was during a CBI pitch meeting that Raniere met Tony Natalie, who would become one of the top sellers for the organization, later his girlfriend. Natalie moved to Clifton Park, New York to be near Raniere, and that led to the end of her marriage.
I've always wondered, what the hell does Amway sell? I've heard of Amway.
A lot.
Okay.
false hopes and dreams.
Sounds about right. That sounds like a pyramid scheme, all right.
By 1993, CBI began facing significant legal challenges with investigations launched in 20 states over allegations that it operated as a pyramid scheme. In 1996, Rainier settled with New York State by agreeing to pay a $40,000 fine and ceasing all activities related to pyramid schemes. Despite claims of a multi-million-dollar net worth, he only paid $9,000 of the fine, citing financial inability.
Mm-hmm. That's how it always starts.
Yeah.
I have all this money. I have no discernible income. I can't pay this. Yeah.
And, I mean, his advantage is that all that money was probably in the business.
Yeah.
Which means they can't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we're incorporated. That's why you incorporate. They can't touch it. In 1998, Tony Natalie introduced Keith Rainier to Nancy Salzman, a nurse and practitioner of hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming.
That's a fancy word for I can mind control people, which we found
using words,
which we found.
If you've ever seen The Winter Soldier, that's neurolinguistic programming. They say keywords, and he's been programmed to do specific things.
So he works for Hydra, or
yes.
she works for Hydra.
Yes.
Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra. Natalie described her initial conversation with Salzman, where she sought help for Rainier, whose behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. Salzman's response was direct, labeling Rainier as a sociopath.
Sounds about right.
After meeting Rainier, Salzman quickly fell under his influence, exhibiting what Natalie described as glazed eyes, signaling her deepened involvement with him.
So she literally identified two major red flags. He's a sociopath, and he's got the crazy eyes. I'm going to fix him.
Yeah.
I bet you any money that's how it fucking went.
NXIVM's teachings were eclectic, drawing from a variety of sources, including the philosophy of Ayn Rand, the principles of L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, God. It's him again. He's back.
Milton Erickson's hypnosis, Isaac Asimov's science fiction, and, again, science fiction. Which Isaac Asimov stuff is amazing.
Yes, he has if you're anybody, he is probably the best, most influential science fiction writer, very deep philosophical meaning. Of his time. Even his stuff resonates today.
Oh, it does, but there are very good writers now, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, he's not a foundation for your cult.
Yes. And techniques from neurolinguistic programming. The organization also adopted multi-level marketing strategies and integrated practices from judo, such as using colored sashes to denote rank and requiring members to bow. Or just China and Japan.
Oh, boy.
Rainier and Salzman founded Executive Success Programs, ESP, as a personal development company offering techniques aimed at self-improvement. A few years later, they rebranded the program under the name NXIVM, or NXIVM. Rainier adopted the title Vanguard, inspired by an arcade game where the destruction of enemies increased the player's power. This rebranding marked a significant phase in NXIVM's expansion.
Yeah, this is where the pyramid scheme and the self-help coaching stuff, because this is what this is. As everybody remembers those I remember them when I was a kid late at night in summer times. My grandparents would go to bed. I would stay up to watch some of those old TV shows that would play. You remember like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, Fox would air like Star Trek episodes.
That was in the 80s.
That was 90s.
I wasn't alive.
Of course you wouldn't be. Anyway, but they would have all those infomercials with like, you can do this and that, or and selling all this weird crap. Like,
yeah, 90s, those people went to prison.
Yeah, 90s infomercials, if you ever look them up on like YouTube or something, they are, looking back, it's like, whoa, it's trippy.
Yeah. I'm changing my title from CEO to Vanguard.
Of course you would. Despite our best efforts, Kayde
Actually, no. Using a video game, Master Chief. Just call me Master Chief.
Despite our best efforts, folks, Kayde is determined to turn our organization to a cult.
Are we not?
No, we're not. We don't worship you. You're not the Messiah.
We all come from a cult.
No, we don't.
The military is a cult. Look at it. Is it not a cult?
You are not the Messiah. I'm just throwing that one out right now.
I am.
No, you're not.
DM is God.
No.
In 2002, NXIVM succeeded in recruiting members of the influential Bronfman family. heirs of the multi-billion-dollar Seagram fortune. Sarah Bronfman was first to join, followed by her sister Claire Bronfman. Their father, Edgar Bronfman Sr., also took a NXIVM course the following year, further legitimizing the organization and providing it with significant financial backing.
Yeah, the Bronfman, yeah, those guys. They were the money behind this. Now, Bronfman Senior actually would go on. Not too long. He would start seeing them as a cult. He actually called them, like in Forbes magazine. He straight up said these guys are a cult. But unfortunately, that didn't stop his children or grandchildren from joining.
Let's be honest. He's Canadian, so
yeah,
he's from Montreal.
Yeah, I know.
That's what's wrong with him.
What is with people from French Canada joining cults, man? That's like, this is a third time.
Oh, he's been dead 11 years now.
Yeah.
Died in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So, NXIVM claimed its training methods were proprietary trade secrets and required participants to sign non-disclosure agreements. Right. See? Well, one step closer. All of you have signed NDAs.
Somebody find me an anti-cult group and rescue me, please.
The organization used a technique called rational inquiry to purportedly facilitate personal and professional development. In 2003, NXIVM sued the Ross Institute in the case known as the NXIVM Corp v. Ross Institute. The lawsuit alleged copyright infringement after the Institute published excerpts from NXIVM's manual in 3 critical articles by cult investigator Rick Allen Ross. Ross had obtained the manual from former member Stephanie Franco, who had signed an NDA. The United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit eventually dismissed the case, ruling that the use of material for critical analysis was fair use, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
Any documents are not put under NDA. It is anything that you say. So documents are considered fair use.
Yep.
In October 2003, Forbes published a critical article on NXIVM and Rainier, which upset the organization's leadership. They had anticipated positive coverage, but were particularly disturbed by remarks from Edgar Bronfman Sr., who described NXIVM as a cult and expressed concerns over his daughter's involvement. In subsequent years, Forbes published additional articles detailing the financial entanglements of the Bronfman sisters with NXIVM, including a $2 million loan to the organization and failed business ventures advised by Rainier. In 2006, Kristen Kruick became involved with NXIVM. Following her recruitment, which is sad, I love Kristen Kruick. She luckily did not get as deep and involved. She was not one of the higher ups. She was a victim.
Yeah, it really seemed like Allison Mack was just kind of at this point, because again, Allison Mack is, and NXIVM is expanded, and Rainier is really starting to build. I hate to say it, he's building his harem. Yeah. To lack of a better term, this is where he is, and Allison Mack is essentially just prowling the studios of Hollywood and finding young, impressionable, vulnerable girls to basically bring into this, what is increasingly becoming a sex cult.
Yeah, so following her recruitment, Kristen Kruick, Nancy Salzman and her daughter Lauren, a junior leader in NXIVM, traveled to Vancouver to recruit Kruick's Smallville co-star, Allison Mack. Lauren Salzman formed a close bond with Mack, who subsequently became deeply involved in NXIVM and an enthusiastic recruiter. Mack persuaded her parents to take NXIVM courses and eventually moved to Clifton Park, New York, to be near the organization's headquarters. And again, about this time, as Allison Mack got deeper, Kristen Kruick left.
Mm-hmm.
She got out, realized what was happening, and got out. And I'm just saying that because Kristen Kruick should not have any of this shit put on her. She did nothing wrong. She was a victim. Just like everybody else, where Allison Mack knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
So between 2008 and 2010, the Bronfman sisters allegedly pressured various officials to initiate criminal investigation into NXIVM's critics. Organization developed a reputation for aggressively pursuing its detractors, employing litigation and other tactics to punish those who opposed Rainier or criticized NXIVM's methods. This included maintaining dossiers on various public figures and critics. In 2009, the World Ethical Foundation's consortium, co-founded by Rainier, anything named consortium, co-founded by Rainier and the Bronfman sisters, sponsored a visit to Albany by the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Despite initially canceling due to negative press about NXIVM, the Dalai Lama rescheduled and spoke at Albany's Palace Theater. In 2017, Lama Tenzin Donden, who arranged the visit, was suspended amid corruption charges, and it was revealed that he had a personal relationship with Sarah Bronfman,
Mm-hmm.
which the Dalai Lama is not supposed to have relations.
Yeah.
So, NXIVM has been described as a pyramid scheme, a sex trafficking operation, and a cult. In a 2010 Times Union article, former NXIVM coaches described students as prey for Rainier's sexual and gambling-related proclivities. Kristen Keefe, a longtime partner of Rainier and mother of his child, left the group in 2014, calling Rainier dangerous and confirming the worst accusations about NXIVM.
Yeah, so around here, this is when it's all falling apart. People are leaving, and we're getting not just all the longtime people, other allegations are coming out. There's been allegations of fairly substantiated of statutory rape. Him just basically preying on a lot of these girls. Like I think we're about to get into some of the worst part, the branding and DOS.
Yeah. NXIVM was associated with several related organizations, including JNS, aimed at women, and the Society of Protectors, aimed at men. A third group, known as DOS, Dominus Obsequious Sororium, functioned as a master-slave group within NXIVM. In 2006, Rainier founded Rainbow Cultural Garden, a chain of childcare organizations intended to expose children to multiple languages. 2014, Rainier also established the Knife of Aristotle, a news organization to identify and measure media bias. Aristotle would smack the shit out of him.
Yeah.
In June 2017, Frank Parlato first reported on DOS, a secret society within NXIVM. This report was further amplified by an October 2017 article in the New York Times. DOS, which stood for, again, Dominus Obsequious Sororium, translated as Master over Slave Women, was revealed to be a group where female members were branded with the initials of Keith Rainier and Allison Mack, subjected to corporal punishment, and coerced into providing nude photos or other compromising material as collateral. Law enforcement alleged that DOS members were forced into sexual slavery.
Yes.
Sarah Edmondson, a former member, revealed that joining DOS required providing collateral in the form of explicit photos and other compromising information. This collateral was intended to ensure compliance and secrecy. Women in DOS were branded with Rainier's initials using a cauterizing pen, a procedure that took place during ceremonies led by high-ranking members like Allison Mack.
Hey.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was done on their pelvic areas. It was
Also on the back of their shoulders, places that could be hidden.
Yeah, the ritual as it describes, according to this, my notes here I have, slaves were required to be fully naked with ceremonies filmed and used as more collateral for the people being initiated. They said they were laid down, and most of the time they weren't really, it wasn't like when people were looking at it, looked at first, they weren't being coerced. Like nobody was ever like physically tied down and held.
But they were being mentally manipulated.
Exactly. And
just like any cult does.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Edmondson, a Canadian actress and longtime participant in NXIVM's ESP programs, played a crucial role in exposing DOS. Edmondson, who is still an actress, detailed how she was inducted into DOS at Allison Mack's home, where she and other women were blindfolded, held down, and branded by NXIVM-affiliated doctor Danielle Roberts. Pretty sure that goes against your oath.
Pretty sure, too.
Pretty sure there's the whole I will not harm.
Yeah. I'm also just amazed at how many women are doing this to other women. I mean...
It's amazing what being manipulated can do to you.
Jesus Christ.
Edmondson's revelations shared on AE television program about cults and further publicized by the New York Times led to a mass exodus of NXIVM members and heightened media scrutiny. On December 15, 2017, the ABC News magazine 2020 aired an expose featuring interviews with former NXIVM members, including Edmondson and Catherine Oxenberg, claimed her daughter was in danger from the group. This expose included allegations of financial and sexual exploitation by NXIVM leaders. Edmondson also appeared in the CBC podcast Uncover, further detailing her experiences within the group. In March 2018, Keith Raniere was arrested in Mexico and extradited to the United States, where he was indicted on charges related to DOS, including sex trafficking and forced labor. U.S. Attorney Richard Donahue stated that Raniere created a secret society of women whom he coerced into sexual acts and branded with his initials, leveraging threats of exposing their personal information and seizing their assets. Jesus. In April 2018, Allison Mack was also arrested and indicted on similar charges. Prosecutors alleged that Mack was second in command of DOS and was instrumental in recruiting women and coercing them into sexual activities with Raniere. Mack was released on a $5 million bond and placed under house arrest pending trial. Now, this is the thing with the branding. Cannot say you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Your initials are on this.
Yeah, I mean...
You left evidence behind.
I mean, it really seems like he just didn't think anything would happen. Like...
Or he didn't care.
That, yeah.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah.
He doesn't give two shits. Following Raniere's arrest, Nancy Salzman's home was raided and prosecutors anticipated further arrest. In July 2018, Claire Bronfman, NXIVM president Nancy Salzman, her daughter Lauren Salzman, and NXIVM employee Kathy Russell were arrested and charged with racketeering. Claire Bronfman was released to house arrest after signing a $100 million bail bond.
Well, it's a Bronfman, Pete. They could afford that.
Yeah. Amidst the legal turmoil, NXIVM announced in June 2018 that it had suspended its operations due to the extraordinary circumstances facing the company. This marked the official end of NXIVM's activities, though the legal proceedings and investigations continue to unravel the full extent of the group's operations and abuses.
Now we're going to go over, just give you all a quick rundown of what everybody and what they were charged with.
Correct. And then we'll get into Allison Mack.
Because she's really, honestly...
She's the face of all of this because she was a famous actress.
And she's kind of the enigma in this whole thing. Like, how does somebody who has... I mean, she wasn't an A-list Hollywood star, but how does somebody...
Smallville was a big fucking show.
Yeah, how do you go from basically what is a solid B actor to this?
Yeah. It's like, what's her name? Kathy... who's the redhead?
Kathy Griffin?
Yeah. Fucking hate her.
Oh, you mean what she did with the Donald Trump's head?
Yeah.
Granted, I think she hadn't had much of a career at that point.
She was always the C-list actor.
Yeah, I think that was her Hail Mary, and she really just...
bombed.
Yeah.
All right, so, Keith Raniere. Charges. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy. Count 2, racketeering for multiple predicate acts, including conspiracy to commit identity theft. Sexual exploitation of a child, 2 acts.
It was, I believe, proven that he had committed statutory rape on a couple of young girls during this whole thing.
Possession of child pornography, conspiracy to alter records, trafficking for labor and services, extortion, sex trafficking. Count 3, forced labor conspiracy. Count 4, wire fraud conspiracy. Count 5, sex trafficking conspiracy. Count 6, sex trafficking. Count 7, attempted sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Sentence, 120 years imprisonment.
Hell yes.
$1.75 million in fines. $15,000 assessment under the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act of 2015. So just so you guys know, that $15,000, that doesn't go to the courts. That goes directly to the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act.
Oh. To
help victims that have been trafficked get back on their feet.
I was wondering
That's why it's separate.
Okay.
So $15,000 goes immediately to that organization and it's women, the people that started it, if I remember right, are women that were trafficked. Yeah. And they got out, started this, and they help other women. Or men, because it's not all just women that are trafficked. $3.46 million restitution to 21 victims. ordered to return all collateral to lower-ranking DOS members. And currently he's incarcerated at Tucson State Prison.
Oh, by the way, if anyone's wondering, out of that 3.46 million, all of 21 victims would receive roughly about about $164,000.
Yeah, that's about right. Allison Mack. Again, we'll get deeper into her stuff, but she pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison, and she was recently released a year ago, July 3rd, 2023. That's why we wanted to do this, because I've been wanting to do this since she got released. Because she is now going back to school.
Yeah.
And she's obviously will never be an actor again because she's been blacklisted everywhere.
I don't know. They've had a couple of known pedophiles get recast in Hollywood.
But none that have been in... Well, none of them have been involved in a sex cult.
That we know of.
Obviously, we know that John Travolta and Tom Cruise are in a cult, but...
Yeah.
So Claire Bronfman pleaded guilty to conspiring to conceal and harbor an undocumented immigrant for financial gain. I
tried looking that one up. I couldn't figure that one out.
So pleaded guilty. So she was conspiring to conceal and harbor an undocumented immigrant. So basically, she got an illegal immigrant, and she was harboring them and keeping them to sell them.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure out.
It's a different version of trafficking.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just couldn't figure who. I couldn't get the specifics.
Yeah, you won't. They're a victim. Their names aren't going to be released. Fraudulent use of identification. She was sentenced to 81 months in prison. She's incarcerated in Danbury Federal Correctional Institute, which is what FCI is. Lauren Salzman pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy, 5 years of probation, and she's currently still on probation. Nancy Salzman pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy, 42 months in prison, and she's incarcerated at Hazleton Federal Correctional Institute.
Now, with all your time, are you recognizing any of these prisons?
Oh, yeah, I've been to some of these. Kathy Hazleton is in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kathy Russell pleaded guilty to visa fraud, 2 years on probation. She's currently still on probation. So let's get deeper into Allison Mack. So, on April 20th, 2018, Allison Mack was arrested by the FBI in Brooklyn on charges of sex trafficking conspiracy, and forced labor conspiracy. The federal indictment accused Mack of recruiting women to join what was purported to be a female mentorship group, but was actually led by Keith Rainier. Mack was alleged to be a top member in a highly organized scheme designed to provide sex for Rainier. Prosecutors stated that Mack concealed Rainier's leadership role in DOS and coaxed recruits into providing highly damaging personal information, nude photos, and rights to personal assets. Furthermore, Mack was accused of starving women to fit Rainier's sexual feminine ideal and coercing them into sexual activity with him in exchange for financial and other benefits. Mack was released on April 24th, 2018 on a $5 million bond and placed under house arrest at her parents' home in California. During her arraignment, prosecutors also accused her of entering into a sham marriage with Nikki Klein to help Klein circumvent U.S. immigration laws. This was confirmed by India Oxenberg, who witnessed the marriage ceremony and stated it was orchestrated by Rainier to keep Klein in the U.S. Yeah. Initially facing 15 years to life if found guilty, Mack entered a plea negotiation along with other defendants. In April 2019, Mack began assisting the government in prosecuting Rainier by detailing the inner workings of DOS and the crimes committed by other first-line DOS masters. She provided critical information and a recording of Rainier detailing the branding ceremony, which proved instrumental in the prosecution's case. On April 8th, 2019, Mack pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy, admitting to state law extortion and forced labor. She provided extensive cooperation, which prosecutors credited, leading to a recommendation for favorable sentencing. Days before her sentencing, Mack issued a public statement expressing deep remorse for her involvement with NXIVM and calling it the biggest mistake and greatest regret of her life. On June 30th, 2021, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison, 3 years of probation, 1,000 hours of community service, and a $20,000 fine. Mack reported to Federal Correctional Institution Dublin in California in September 2021 and was released early on July 3rd, 2023, after serving 21 months of her 3-year sentence.
I would make sure
she still does have probation, though.
I would have pushed for more jail time. This is, I mean, again, she's...
But they would not have gotten the evidence that they needed to get Rainier without doing that.
Which is the person they wanted. They wanted Rainier.
That's the one that they were going to get the most. Yeah. If they would have gotten everybody else, Rainier would have just done this again.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that's the way the law works. You got to catch the bigger fish.
Yeah. And besides, I mean, it's poetic justice. Who's ever going to cast Allison Mack in any movie?
Exactly.
She's I mean, from what I was reading up about her, she's going back to school somewhere. Don't know what she's studying and everything. She's obviously keeping her head down, doing her probation and community service, and just kind of going with it. And well, in this economy, she'll end up working in a McDonald's somewhere.
Yeah, so, I mean, she's done. Yeah. So, in January 2020, Mack, Rainier, Klein, and other NXIVM individuals were named as defendants in a civil lawsuit filed by 80 former NXIVM members. The lawsuit alleged fraud and abuse, claiming NXIVM was a pyramid scheme that exploited recruits, conducted illegal human experiments, and made it physically and psychologically difficult for members to leave the coercive community.
I mean, it's not, this was always my thing about civil lawsuits that are filed after this. I mean, I get it, go for it, make these people pay, but you're literally taking blood from a stone. What is left here to do? Rainier, as we found out, has all been convicted. Most of these people at this point, when they're already in prison, what more can you get from them?
Money.
I mean, what money? It seems like, I mean, from what I understood, they see the Fed seized everything.
Yeah, but then the Feds unfreeze it and it goes to the victims. So they basically, when something like this happens, the Feds seize the money and then it's held until everything is done. And I believe it has to be held for like 5 to 7 years after. And then it is then all put in. So, plus some of these individuals that were defendants were the Bronfmans.
Yeah.
Who have plenty of money. So
I'm sure they could have just cut everyone a check and made everyone happy.
Yeah. Following Keith Rainier's conviction, the assets of NXIVM were held by Nancy Salzman, including several corporate entities and intellectual property rights. As part of her plea agreement, Salzman did not contest the forfeiture of these assets. After Rainier's conviction, the former members of NXIVM split into two main groups: those who spoke out against Rainier and the organization, and a small faction that continued to support him. Attorneys for Rainier submitted letters from 56 supporters requesting leniency during his sentencing.
They're all whacked.
Yeah. In January 2020, Sarah Edmondson became the lead plaintiff in a civil lawsuit under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, filed, which is how a lot of these organizations are taken down, filed in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York. The suit accused Rainier and 14 associates, including Nancy Salzman, Claire Bronfman, Lauren Salzman, Allison Mack, and others, of conducting illegal psychological experiments and physically, emotionally, and financially abusing members.
So, Sarah is determined to get it for them.
And she has the pull. She's an actress. Rainier's continued influence. Despite his incarceration, Rainier continued to influence his followers. During the COVID-19 pandemic, his remaining supporters, including actress Nikki Klein, gathered outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn to dance and show support. They formed a group called the Forgotten Ones and We Are As You, which former NXIVM members and prosecution witness Mark Vincente dismissed as a cover to support Rainier. Rainier maintained communication with his followers through phone calls and TrueLinks emails. That's emails set up through the court, through the jail, and they're monitored.
Oh, okay. I always wondered what that was.
Yeah. He instructed them to perform various actions, including trying to influence prison staff to have them move back to a previous unit. Rainier also attempted to have high-profile attorney Alan Dershowitz speak on his behalf. Though Dershowitz did not comment on the matter.
Yeah, Dershowitz.
Good for him.
Yeah, I was about to say he has way more important things to do, like actually trying
and
to.
He's actually a good lawyer.
He's
not a shady.
Yeah, he's quite possibly one of the best legal minds we have alive today.
And he is all about A-list actors.
Yeah,
he is the. I'm pretty sure he helped consult for like the Johnny Depp stuff and stuff like that.
He does a lot of stuff for private matters like A-list celebrities, but he also does a lot of like speaking engagements on like government like laws. He does the big stuff.
Let's see. He did Patty Hearst, Harry Reams, Leona Helmsley, Jim Bakker, Mike Tyson, Michael Milken, OJ, like OJ. All of that stuff.
Yeah. He's a big time lawyer.
And yeah, so he's been a lawyer. I mean, he graduated from Yale in like 1959.
Yeah,
he's very good.
Yeah.
And he's one of the richest lawyers in the country. So he's paid very well. So there was no way he was going to fucking touch this.
No.
Because that would end his career.
I mean, it would unnecessarily ruin it. First of all, the guy's a
he would lose, number one.
Yeah, and he's this is obviously a sociopathic scam artist who did
and
it.
How's he gonna pay him?
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, I'm not doing this shit pro bono.
Yeah,
you're fucking dumb.
Yeah.
On September 3rd, 2020, Judge Nicholas Garofis sentenced Claire Bronfman to 6 years and 9 months in federal prison. Harsher sentence than recommended by guidelines due to her continued loyalty to Rainier despite his conviction. Bronfman's attorney, Ronald S. Sullivan Jr., filed an appeal on October 7, 2020, though she had forfeited the right to appeal her conviction as part of her plea agreement.
Rich kids, man.
The judge was like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Stop supporting this dude.
Yeah.
And gave her the harder sentence, and why are you sending an appeal? You know you can't
said you
file
weren't
an
going to
appeal.
do that.
On October 27, 2020, Rainier was sentenced to 120 years in prison and fined $1.75 million. He was also ordered to pay $3.46 million in restitution to 21 victims and return all collateral to lower-ranking DOS members. His attorneys filed an appeal on November 4, 2020. He was originally transferred to the United States Penitentiary Lewisburg before being moved to his permanent location in Tucson. Maximum security facility specially designated for sex offenders.
I didn't know we had one.
Yes,
but
that is one of the. We have a few. That's the biggest one. I've been to that one. It'll make you sick just walking in there, knowing that every single one of those people are sex offenders.
I'm curious. What's like is it like a well-maintained facility, or do they just throw these guys in a dungeon?
No,
I'm okay with either one.
It's a normal, because the United States penitentiaries have specific things that they have to maintain and stuff like that. So it's normal. It's just they put all the sex offenders in here. So number one, they don't get killed while they're in prison, and number two, they can't sexually assault anybody else. Unless it's each other, and who cares?
Again, I don't know if
then these guards that do these have to be thoroughly vetted
so that they don't just enact their own justice on them.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've been to the Tucson one. It was before he was there. Because I left law enforcement in 2020. So I was there in like 2018, 2019. But to finalize, oral arguments for appeals of Rainier and Bronfman were heard on May 3rd, 2022. On December 9th, 2022, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit upheld the conviction and sentences for both Rainier and Bronfman. This ongoing legal saga illustrates the far-reaching impact of NXIVM's manipulative and abusive practices. And this is we may touch back on this if new news comes out, because he's going to keep trying to file appeals and all of that, because again, this was 2 years ago. And
he has 120 years basically to do all this.
We will definitely touch on it again when he dies. Because obviously he's going to die in prison.
We will drink to his eternal damnation when that day happens.
So, yeah, that's NXIVM. NXIVM we did not go into heavy detail because a lot of that stuff was removed when Allison Mack was released.
And frankly,
before she was released, there was a ton of stuff on it, but part of her being released was that a lot of the details were removed so that she could try and live a normal life.
And honestly, I mean, one of the sad things about this is, and we've seen this in other other episodes we've had about other cults. This is really this. I've said this before, and especially with a couple of our other ones that we had. I always felt like a lot of them seemed to be the members also had their own mental illnesses. I mean, just some of the bizarre and horrifying things they did. This one really, I felt pity for the members because most of these women were vulnerable. Their self-esteem was broken down. These were really were victims.
Yeah.
They were manipulated by somebody who pretended to care. They were lured in by their fellow women into basically a horrible metaphorically spider's nest, and just and were subjugated to these horrible things. And yeah, I'm okay with not going into the explicit details on this because these poor women really genuinely, I feel like they should just, get on with their lives and just kind of put this dark chapter in their life behind them. We don't need to hear the gruesome details. The only gruesome details I want to hear is if this man is eventually killed in prison, and I just want to see how he died. That's about all I want.
But yeah, so next week we will be going back to serial killers. As weird as it sounds, my favorite serial killer, Ed Kemper.
Who's still alive, by the way.
Who's still alive, and I would love to do an interview with Ed Kemper. Apparently he's fucking hilarious.
I've heard this too.
And is now a super nice guy. Well, apparently he was always a nice guy, but... And we're really going to be looking at nature versus nurture in this one.
Yeah.
Because I have some beliefs, but we'll get into that with that. But, you notice I chose this one. It's called Metropolis.
Oh.
Allison Mack, Smallville.
Superman. Oh, yeah.
Superman.
Never watched Smallville.
This music's called Metropolis.
Kagan will go on and on about Smallville, and I just kind of smile. Like, I've never watched the show once in my life.
So... I want to thank you for visiting the Scarlet Tavern. Remember to turn in your glasses, push in your seat, and as always, tip the bard. Good night, everybody.
Good night.